This episode is proudly sponsored by Ramset, manufacturer and supplier to the Australian construction industry for over 70 years. Started in Australia, still in Australia, staying in Australia.
Welcome back to another episode of the Built Different podcast, the podcast for tradies that are built different. Proudly brought to you by HIA. This is the show where you hear about everything that you need to know to make it in the building and construction industry. Now today, we might have a familiar face for our listeners out there. For anyone new to the podcast, joining me on set today is Simon Mee.
Hey, surprise. Fancy seeing me here, hey?
So Simon's abandoned the host side of things today, and he's left me in the lurch. So today's his opportunity to tell us all about his journey.
I've also abandoned my sleeves, apparently.
So for those that don't know, Simon's journey into the industry, Simon's a mature age apprentice.
Yep, correct.
He was part of the Great Resignation, the COVID resignation, I should say.
Yeah, I was. Yep.
Traded spreadsheets for a nail gun, and the rest is history.
Yeah, well, that's a pretty good little summary there. Yeah, I picked up power tools for the first time at the ripe old age of 21. So it hasn't exactly been a standard entry into the building and construction industry.
Yep.
But yeah, here I am, and 5-10 years ago, I wouldn't have expected to find myself in this situation, but I'm a hell of a lot happier for it.
Yeah, happier. That's a really interesting point you make. I actually read a study earlier this week that tradies, once they become qualified, are happier than their uni graduate counterparts. Yeah.
Wow.
So happier all round. So
that I could probably get behind. Yeah, that would make sense. Yep. There's nothing fun about having a hex debt.
Damn straight. So I want to kick off today and talk about what's going on in your career at the moment and what's happening in your life.
Yeah.
You got a lot on.
Mate, I do have a lot on. And look, I actually wrote a few of these things down just because there is so much I have going on in my life. And when I actually listed it all out, I stood back and was like, crap, there's a few things happening.
Yeah.
So at the moment, I am working full-time as a residential carpenter for Happy House up in Queensland. They do custom homes, design and build, and they're doing some great work up there. And I'm very happy being part of the team up there.
And what are you working on at the moment?
New builds.
Yep.
New builds, and we pretty much start one a month. And they're all brand new, new designs, and it always keeps us on our toes. So it's been a lot of fun.
Yep.
But I'm doing my Cert 3. I have started my Cert 4.
Hang on, at the same time as doing your Cert 3?
At the same time.
Yeah, right. Okay.
Yeah, which is good. There's I'm not exactly sure how it kind of came about, but the government has incentivized me to be able to do my Cert 4 whilst I'm doing my Cert 3.
Yeah, okay.
Up in Queensland. I'm not sure if that's a national initiative, but it's something that I'm quite ahead on my Cert 3 studies. Mm-hmm. So whilst I've been doing that, I'm trying to take on a little bit more. So by the time, I want to get my builder's license as soon as I can.
Yep.
And so if there's anything that's going to help that process along,
absolutely.
I'm all for it.
And
so
that's a key
pretty
part
cool.
of getting to that sort of that builder license stage, right?
Yeah, huge. And look, I don't know exactly where I want to be in another 5 or 10 years' time.
Yeah.
I'd love, the whole reason I got into this was because I want to be running my own business, but I don't exactly know what that looks like. Hence, it's actually been really cool hosting this podcast, talking to a lot of people about working out, what's your niche, or, what do you need to know before you made the leap and, went into doing your own business. But look, to go on to quickly recap what else I've got going on. I've got a baby on the way in 8 weeks' time.
Yeah.
I'm renovating my house. I'm renovating my brother's laundry at the moment. I'm running a small apparel company off the back of my time as Survivor, which has been crazy. And there's been a few little Instagram influencing opportunities as well here and there to knock up my apprentice salary because I need all the help I can get right now. So yeah, I have my hands full.
Yeah. Mate, I think you need to learn how to start saying maybe not today. Yeah. That's a big list. You've got a lot going on.
Yeah. I am a bit of a yes man, and just juggling it all. And look, I am in quite a luxurious position right now as an apprentice where I can go home at 2:30, yes, a 2:30 knockoff is freaking awesome. I know that a lot of other tradies like maybe not be in that situation, but yeah, we have a hard 2:30 knockoff. But I'm also not going home and having to worry about doing other paperwork and reconciling the books or quoting and doing all of those things. So whilst I'm have that, I guess bandwidth.
Yep.
I've found other things.
Bandwidth. I don't know you've got that, but
I found other
there.
things that I can fill it with, right? Because down the track, I'm not going to have the luxury of being able to, take on all those extra projects there. And I don't think I do things by halves.
Nah,
I kind of just take a big bite and chew.
Yep. Oh, that's a good way to be. You know what? That's a really good sort of segue into sort of the mindset that I think, we were talking about you having in making that decision in trading corporate life for, a trade. How did that decision come about?
To go from my corporate into being,
Yeah.
okay. Well, probably go back to the start on that one. Then out of school, I studied. I was a pretty bright kid in school, and it just seemed to be the way to go. That if you're bright, you go ahead and you go to university, and the rest, you go, do an apprenticeship. It was pretty cut and dry.
Yep.
And so went to university, started off doing a dual degree in human movement because I've liked and enjoyed sport, and then business as a bit of a backup.
Yep.
Failed anatomy, and because it was on Friday mornings at 9 a.m. after student nights on Thursday.
Yes.
Yeah. And then, picked up the business side of things, ran with that, fell into media, marketing, and advertising.
Yep.
And started quite a fruitful and great career in that, working in media agencies. I was a digital marketing director for a media agency. I really loved what I was doing. But
because that sounds like a pretty successful career on that trajectory.
Yeah, I had a lot going for me and was really I enjoyed what I was doing at the time, but something was just missing.
Yep.
And I remember having this conversation when I was 25. I'd done 4 years of university, and then I'd been working for 4 years, thinking that, okay, maybe I just wanted to be a chippy and get outside and do something with my hands. But I thought I was too old at 25.
Yeah.
And here I am 6 years later I'm a couple of years older now, but at the ripe old age of 31, I made the plunge. And I probably had this moment where I was at home, off the back of COVID, working from home. I'm in the shower and my head's against the wall, and I'm like, I had great clients. I had a great team. I had great people around me. And I'm like, I don't want to open my laptop today.
Yeah.
And it was a real struggle and a realization for me at that point.
Yep.
And I made the really tough call to walk away from 10 years and a university degree to go and start an apprenticeship, as well as walking away from a nice, cushy salary to go and slog myself on the tools and start from scratch in the hope that one day I can run my own business and can give myself some direction there. Because where I was in the media and marketing world, I couldn't see myself doing or running my own business or being my own boss or breaking the cycle there.
Yeah.
It was just kind of run by two bigger corporations and big tech companies and stuff, and didn't have I didn't feel the right space was there for me.
Yep.
And that's what was so appealing about a trade for me, the opportunity to carve out, do something that I do, take my own direction in life, and be able to break that cycle and work for myself and give myself a bit of flexibility there.
Yep. And look, I think you hit the nail on the head, pardon the pun, around making it your own and choosing sort of your own future. Having that pathway or that vision to become self-employed, craft a business, build it up from the ground, make it your own, and run things the way that you want to run it. That's such a big dream, right?
Yeah, I think it's part of the bigger picture.
Yeah.
To be able to do things on my own terms and to do what I want and how I want it.
Yep.
I think that would be really cool down the track.
Yeah.
So I kind of said it before on this podcast that I am in my sponge mode where I'm just trying to absorb as much as I can from as many different people within this building and construction industry, which I am just, I'm fumbling my way through, but I'm trying to pick up as much as I can on the way. And where, I'm maybe on site with such a limited amount of people, it's communities like this that give me the opportunity to be able to, open my horizons and, hear from different like-minded people, which has been something that I've really enjoyed.
Yep. And I guess, residential building sites can be really small. So, having communities like the Built Different community, and getting involved with things like this connects you to other people where you have those opportunities to figure out how everyone else is, running their business or, tackling their apprenticeship or their trade or running a job a certain way and being able to, take the best bits and learn from it, right?
Yeah, it's huge. And, it can be really tough when you're in a small team, on a residential site and you're with the same guys day in, day out.
Yep.
And it's a really good opportunity to hone your craft and get really good at something.
Yep.
But you have to, it's a balance of, how much can you learn from different from one person or different people versus how much experience are you going to need under your belt when, to make sure that you're ready to take the next step.
Well, that's a really good, really good point, right? Knowing when to take that next step.
Yeah.
Once you're qualified, I imagine you won't take that leap immediately. Have you thought ahead?
Yeah, it's probably still a little bit further away than what I initially thought.
Yeah.
In Queensland, to get your builder's license, you have to do your Cert 3, and then I can do my Cert 4 theory, which I've started at the moment. Mm-hmm. But then I have to do 2 years of supervising before I can actually get my builder's license.
Yep.
You actually prove yourself to be, managing a team, managing jobs, and getting all that flowing. But I think one of the real benefits to me is that, for me, is that I've had the time in the past life that I've managed the teams, I've managed budgets, I've managed clients, and all that. So I think that somewhere out there is when these worlds collide at the right time, where I can take all the experience I've learned from my marketing and media background, everything I'm learning on the tools, and how I can bring that together to carve out my own niche.
That's exciting, mate.
Yeah, it is really cool.
You've kind of just done it. You've the less traditional way. Most tradies get the tools first and the skills first, then the business side. But you've kind of done it the other way around.
Yeah.
So,
and it definitely makes it interesting walking onto site, as a 31, 33-year-old now, taking direction from, 18-year-olds and stuff like that. Like, it takes a lot to pack up your ego, put it in your back pocket
100%.
And, learn from the people around you, because there is so much you can take from everyone. And whether you're learning from people's mistakes, like I don't have much time as I like. So I'm trying to, take in as much as I can from everyone at every point there. And it can be a challenge.
Yep. So how would you describe yourself as an apprentice? We've asked that question to a lot of people on this show. Ooh. I want to hear from your mouth.
Look, I'm motivated.
Yep.
I'm not as ambitious as I used to be.
Yeah.
I think that probably comes with being a little bit older,
a bit more mature.
Yep. Knowing that yes, I'll take big bites and chew, but I can't do it all. And maybe it's like having that realization that good things take time.
Yep.
I've got bad time management and I'm never a punctual person. Like I am the eternal optimist. Like, oh great. Like Google Maps, it only takes me 20 minutes to get to work.
Yeah.
And
I only need 22 minutes to,
So I'm not for people who are like, work starts at 6:30 and I'm there at 6:31.
Yep.
Like,
is it that close though? Come on.
Look, I trust me, like I'm bloody close, but I just always seem to miss it. And no matter how hard I try or try to convince myself, I just can't quite get there.
Yep.
But, I'm not exactly like, running off site at 2:29. Like, I'm making sure it's all done and packed up and clean, everything. So, what kind of goes around comes around. But I think that, look, I'm willing to learn.
Yeah.
I'd like to think that I can take instruction. Look, I ask a lot of questions. Like I must be a pain in the ass for some of my leading carpenters and stuff. It is. And, you do it in the right way where you save up questions and try to ask them all at the same time.
Yep.
But like, when something's being explained to the other apprentices and myself or something like that, like I might ask like 3 or 4 more questions, but I have the hope that like, I want to see someone do it and like actually learn what's going on, watch, ingest, take notes and being like, how can I do that better? Or how am I going to put my own spin on it to get that result? And making sure that the next time I do it, then, I can actually deliver the results that are expected.
Yep.
So, I think that kind of comes with a little bit of maturity.
Mm-hmm.
And because there always is a big consideration for an employer to consider a mature age apprentice.
Yep.
But I'd like to think that, what the extra cost for bringing on someone like that,
Yep.
I'd like to think that you get back in, results and stuff like that.
Yep.
So, yeah, I hope I'm ticking a few boxes on the way through.
Mate, it sounds like you are, and you've absolutely got the right, attitude and all of that sort of thing to, keep pushing ahead.
Oh, thank you. I guess I'll come back on this podcast then.
Look, if it was me, I'd hire you in a
Oh,
heartbeat.
great. Oh, that's good.
But, in terms of, maturity being a factor in the way that you approach things on site, that's not to say that, a 17 or 18-year-old, second or third year apprentice, even first year apprentice, can still approach things in that same way, right?
Yeah, I think it just depends how much your heart's in it and, how passionate you are about it.
Yeah.
And I think that someone that it's kind of what Bards spoke about, that are you just turning up to get your paycheck, or are you really leaning into this?
Yeah.
Is this your career, and how seriously are you taking that?
Yep.
And I think it comes with coming back to maturity, it kind of comes around with the, just the passion
Yeah,
and
such a young
and
age.
asking questions and want to be there. And yeah, it kind of gives me hope in the next generation, which is awesome. So if there are more kids like him, we'll be in safe hands.
Yeah, damn straight.
Yeah.
So, mate, tell me, what did you take from the corporate world and bring into your apprenticeship?
Yeah, that's a great question. I think
you would have had so many skills and so many different challenges in the corporate world.
yeah.
What are the things that you're going to bring? that you've brought?
It is just, I've been blown away just by how different it is.
Yeah.
It is just chalk and cheese when you're sitting down in the office versus being on site.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know. Maybe I wasn't quite sure if those, I thought those things were going to be closer together, but yeah, it's very different.
Yep.
The big learning for me has been the importance of communication.
Yep.
In the corporate world, communicating is it's the bread and butter of what you try to do. You're always trying to collaborate, whether it be within your team, with other businesses, with clients.
Yep.
There's a lot of either, B2B or B2C.
Yep.
Versus on site, you have trade experts
Yeah.
that are really good at building, doing,
Yep.
making, constructing, problem solving, but have never been taught in a way or forced to be able to communicate
Yeah.
in the same way that the people in the corporate world get to do.
Yep.
And that disconnect has probably blown my mind the most.
Yeah.
And probably the lack of knowledge and I don't know, maybe training in that kind of space there.
Yep.
And I think it's a theme that we've kind of seen quite a lot, is that, tradies work their way through the ranks, get really good at what they do.
Yep.
Subby for a bit, go out, take the plunge, and then, run their own business.
Yeah.
And then all of a sudden you're not spending as much time on the tools anymore, and you are a manager.
Yeah, that's
You're
it.
managing so many different things, but you haven't had the training or anything to do that. Versus I feel like that comes a lot more naturally with what you do in a corporate space, because you're forced to do it, because without, communication and collaboration, it doesn't quite happen.
That's right.
And it's actually quite frustrating at times watching other people around on site, so try to communicate at times where it's coming from the right place with the best of intentions, but how it's received can really be a disconnect there. Yeah. And when you're trying to achieve an outcome, people can really fall short there. So I feel for for some tradies, because it doesn't come
naturally.
Naturally.
Yeah. And I mean, it's easy to see how that comes about, right? I mean, residential building teams can be really small.
Yeah.
You know, versus the corporate world, you can be dealing with, 50 different people in one single day.
Yep.
Whereas on a building site, some of the guys might only work with the same 3 or 4 people for a year.
And you might only see the supervisor a couple of times a week or something like that.
And I mean, that's kind of it comes with the territory. That's someone see that as a perks of the job.
Yep.
But you can kind of see how that kind of comes about.
Yeah.
So, what advice would you have to people on site that might be on the receiving end or, they do find themselves in that tricky spot where they're struggling, they're butting heads with someone on site?
Yeah.
Do you have any advice that you could give to them?
Yeah, I think it's easy to say, be a better communicator.
Yeah.
But what are the tools to actually be a better communicator?
Mm-hmm.
And I think that's like, take the time to listen.
Yep.
Take the time to, explain things properly. Am I being approachable enough?
Yep.
Like, can someone, ask questions of me and, how am I interacting with people, and do I need to adjust my ways of doing something?
Bit of a self-awareness piece in it.
Yeah. It is hard when you have a variety of people from a variety of backgrounds and with differing motives as well.
Yep.
Trying to get a single task done as a team when things aren't firing on all cylinders.
Yep. I mean, particularly with like hands-on work and really task-oriented stuff like what happens on a building site.
Yeah.
People people have in their minds exactly the way they expect a job to run.
Yes.
But not everybody around them are mind readers.
Yeah, exactly.
So, being able to communicate what's in your mind rather than expecting people to understand, and just know how things operate.
So, self-awareness is such a big part of it. And just trying to self-reflection, trying to take a step back and assess the situation and, what can I do differently?
Yeah.
And I get that it is hard at times, but, if you are motivated enough to make a difference, to better yourself, to get a better outcome and, collaborate and communicate better with the people around you, then you'll find a way to do that works for you.
Yeah. So some of the things you spoke about, being approachable, listening, they're kind of, that plays into just a mutual respect by the sounds of it.
Yep.
So it's just kind of, taking a step back and, making sure that you are approachable, even the tone in which you communicate.
You also have to pick your battles.
Yeah.
You just, at times when you can let a few things go to the keeper or, rise above something or just realize that, I'm just going to, I'm going to take maybe some of the intention or take the intention with away from some of the, I don't know, lack of communication, then it's just identifying those little bits and pieces. And, if you can just, I want to go home enjoying work. Like I want to be at work enjoying it. I want to enjoy the time I spend there with the people that I'm around.
Well, you're spending how many hours a day with these people on site every single day? For some people, it's more time than they spend with their family.
Yeah. And relationships take time.
Yeah.
And, you end up in a chippy crew, in my example, like it's a small group of guys that would never have crossed paths otherwise.
Yeah.
What are you've got to work at it. You have to work on yourself, work on relationships to make it a good environment and stuff. So always just trying to be relatable, hear about everyone's story and give them time. Like, a couple of little like things you can do.
Yeah.
And that just means that, I'll go home happy. I know that, I'll turn up tomorrow and I'll enjoy being with those blokes on site and I hope they enjoy being on site with me.
Yep. Damn straight. So what's the best part about being a tradie? What's your favourite?
Oh, probably the favourite part probably comes in what was like my most hated thing about being in the corporate world. And it's like, I just remember like those perfect days where I'm like inside stuck behind a computer looking out the window and it's like a perfect day outside, blue sky, sun's out. And
Surf
I'm just
report, cranking.
Yeah, it's not like I'm surfing every day now though. But like, you're stuck into stuffy aircon. It's just, the same reporting document, doing the same kind of stuff and all the red tape and corporate BS. It's just escaping that, being able to be out on site and create something and you see tangibly what you've done.
Yep.
I remember my list when I love taking lists, always taking notes and keeping it down. Well, like my notebook in back in my corporate days, it was just never ending. There always was going. But now you can leave the job at the end of the day, and you can be like, I've achieved quite a lot, and you can actually see it.
Yeah.
The story I kind of tell, I remember in the first couple of weeks, I was building this carport, and no one ever walked behind my desk, when I was at a computer and goes, "Hey, that's a great spreadsheet." Or like, "I love how you pulled those formulas together." It's something I took a lot of pride in.
That's a really well constructed email.
Yeah, but then a neighbor walks down and goes, "Oh, hey, the carport's looking great."
Yeah.
I'm like,
yeah, it is.
Yeah, I built that.
Yeah.
So it's kind of those little moments. Being able to be out there and seize the most of the environment.
Yeah.
It's also coming back to bite me in the butt because when it's like 32 degrees and humid, it's geez, I'd love to be back in the aircon, right? So yeah, look, it goes both ways. But at the end of the day, I made this decision for my own happiness, and I'm glad I am where I am.
Yeah, and look, I mean, it must have been such a tough decision to really take a step back and go, my happiness is more important than
financially, like what that means for me now.
Exactly.
Huge.
Yeah.
Huge part of it in that decision-making process. Because it is a hard thing to do to, jump into, the apprenticeship wages and, minimum wage in Australia. I mean, I know that mature age apprentices, if you're over the age of 21, get paid at like a third year, fourth year, the whole way through, which, it takes the edge off. But, it's not comparable, so there is a lot more that needs to go into it. But I mean, at the end of the day, if you're not happy, like, are you living? Like, are you, is that enough to make you wake up and do what you want to do?
Yeah.
And the advice that I actually got from my first boss when I was working in media and marketing, she was a phenomenal woman. And she said, sometimes you just need to take a step back and make sure that your ladder is leaning up against the right wall.
Yeah, right.
And I thought
You've
that was
come
quite,
full circle,
I
mate.
thought that was quite ironic. The fact that has then become I've actually am now leaning ladders up against walls, and kind of helped me realign to go, what am I doing? What's my purpose? And where do I want to be? Yeah. And look, as I see it, it is a bit of short-term pain for long-term gain.
Yeah.
Investing in my happiness, investing in what I want to be doing,
yeah.
and I was really lucky to have a strong support network around me with my wife, Beck. She has been so supportive of my decisions, and she saw how much pain I was in, when I was in what looked like a good position at the time, and has been able to, help me confidently be able to make this sacrifice for our happiness. And, if
that's
someone's
amazing.
and I couldn't do it without her.
Yep.
I'm not saying I wouldn't do it without it, but like there'd be other things I would be sacrificing. You have to weigh up like, owning a home versus, going back to move with your parents. Like there are some significant lifestyle considerations that you have to make a call on before you go and jump into something like this. But at the end of the day, what are your motivations and where do you want to get to and where do you want to be?
Yep. And what were some of the considerations that you had to, make before you made that decision to do it? Were there like some, a list of things that you had to make sure you had taken care of?
Yeah, look, I think we had to crunch the numbers and sit down and work out if this was actually going to be viable.
Yep.
It probably meant taking starting a family wasn't going to be as much of an immediate priority for us at the time.
Yep.
So I'm kind of lucky now that we're 8 weeks away from expecting our first child, but hopefully by the time that Beck is back from maternity leave, that I'll be a fully qualified tradesman, and that will bump back up. So we'll kind of be able to get us through there.
Yeah.
And look, it's not easy, but you give up some of those things for, as I said, happiness and the right reasons, and whatever those reasons are to you, that's important. I think if you can identify what those are and align, and write down your pros, write down your cons, talk to the people around you and your support network, and work out, do I really want to do this? And am I prepared to make the sacrifices, to put in the hard work and to invest in yourself and to come out on the other side, and be in a good spot?
Yeah. So, I mean, making that choice to, go into the construction industry as a chippy, was a chippy the only way, or had you considered other trades?
No, I think it was chippy for me.
Yeah.
There's something about the creativity with with wood primarily, but building, and then being the I don't know, maybe in my personal opinion, like the maybe the most seamless transition into being able to run my own business.
Yep.
And especially like just the fundamentals of being a carpenter, that can be applied to building a pretty universal. I think like that's pretty great.
Yep.
The first bloke that I was working with, I always say that I started doing a building apprenticeship, not just a carpentry apprenticeship.
Yep.
Yeah, and that was just so helpful because you just get an insight into so many different things, but you also get a skill set that allows you to, I don't know, have exposure to different things, what you like, what you don't like, but also, I can, if I, do want to be running before I go down and specialize or, niche, or you do a niche builder or something, you can actually like do a bit of everything as you set up your business and find your feet. So yeah, I think it's exciting the way that I've kind of come through it. But yeah, it was really the only way in for me.
Yep.
But it was also part of my processing, or part of the way I process is the transition was like, where do I want to get to?
Mm-hmm.
Where do I want to be? And what are the steps I need to do to get there?
Yep.
And working backwards from that. It's like, oh, okay, well, I need to do a Cert 3. And it's like, oh, I'm also going to need to do a Cert 4, but I'm also going to need to do a couple of years of supervising. It's like, find a company that I work for or that I want to work for that are doing good work. And so the position that I'm in now with Happy House, like I reached out to them, like seeing the work that they were doing just through social media, and was like, that's the kind of work and standard and level that I want to be associated with. And sure enough, like where there's smoke, there's fire. Like all the operations and everything are like just as schmick as like the houses and their output, which is pretty cool. So like it's kind of nice to know that my ladder is leaning up against the right wall.
Yeah, beauty. Oh, good on you. So I have to ask, did you really have to build your own shelter while living on a beach when you're on Survivor?
How did I know this was coming, hey?
Mate, it was always going to come out.
Yeah, look, it was pretty funny at the time. Standing around on the beach and like, yes, you have to build your shelter, but it's like everyone's looking at me. It's like, aren't you a chippy?
I was about to ask, what happened first, Survivor or the apprenticeship?
The apprenticeship.
Yeah.
And then,
you had a little bit of skill.
Well, yeah, but like you're out on the beach with like a single machete and like no other tools, and everyone's looking at me like, you can build stuff. I'm like, yeah, but I have a house plan and like timber and like, a whole trailer full of tools, not like a single machete and like, bamboo and rope vine. So yeah, it's as brutal as it looks like, but yeah, it was a hell of a lot of fun.
Oh yeah. Well, look, what was your biggest takeaway or learning from your time on Survivor?
Look, biggest thing was probably, it was a real test of my resilience.
Yeah.
And it's something that when you push to your limit, but when something's so important, you have to keep your composure at the same time.
Mm-hmm.
That was probably like the best personal learning that I took from that.
Yep.
So I was really happy with how I performed under pressure and how I was able to like keep my cool when your world is just falling down around you. Yeah. Like it was pretty soul destroying.
Yeah.
But look, I came out the other side still smiling. So
here I am. On the set of Built Different.
It's been good.
There's worse places to be. So mate, that's about all we've got time for today. But will we see you again on this podcast?
Oh, look, I think if you'll have me back next week, yes, please.
Yeah, we'll switch back sides. You can be joining me in the hosting
weird
duties.
Over this side of the table.
It is, isn't it?
Yeah.
No, looking forward to the next episode. Where can our listeners find you on socials?
Probably the big one for me is Instagram. So I'm at simon.mee89. And to throw a little cheeky plug out there, I've probably got some more snuff tats for any of my Survivor fans. Out there. I've been a little bit slack about getting those ones out there, but they are coming.
Beauty.
So yeah, thanks for having us.
All right. Well, thanks for coming on the show. I guess that's been another episode of the Built Different podcast. Thank you for joining us on set. I guess again.
Do you want to still do this ending together?
Look, it probably only makes sense, doesn't
Let's do it.
All right. So thanks again to our listeners for listening in, tuning in. You can find us at Built Different Australia on Instagram. Don't forget to subscribe to the pod so you don't miss an episode. That's been another episode of the Built Different podcast, the podcast for tradies that are
Built Different.
This episode was brought to you by Ramset. Simon, you as an apprentice know just how tough it can be as an apprentice on a construction site.
Mate, I certainly do.
And that's why Ramset are dedicated to supporting the next generation with the Ramset Apprentice Program.
Right now, Ramsett are giving apprentices all over Australia the opportunity to win $6,000 worth of tools and gear for a limited time. Whether you're a chippy, a sparky, or a plumber, or anything in between, head to www.ramset.com.au/apprentice program 2023 to learn more and enter to win. Get set with Ramset.